What is going on, guys? It's the Inside the Blue podcast, episode number 52, and today breaking down the New York Rangers win over the Calgary Flames and also the New York Giants preview against the New York Jets. And the Jets are, playing against the Giants, and it's really, a home game for both of these squads. They both play at MetLife, and that place is going to be rocking all day long. It looks like Tyrod Taylor is going to get the start. That is not, from a source. That's just for me, saying I think Tyrod Taylor is going to start this game. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be ready to play against the Jets. This is their first regular season meeting since 2019. And Daniel Jones did start that game, but, a lot of stuff to break down for this New York Giants team. Of course, they got a huge win over the Commanders. They dominated. They took care of business, and now they play a Jets team that should be, pretty good. I think the Jets are, pretty solid team this year. I know they lost Aaron Rodgers due to the Achilles injury, but Zach Wilson hasn't looked that bad for them, in my opinion. And Zach Wilson, we've seen what he's capable of doing. He can throw the ball, and he's starting to play good football now, and that's really good for him. Obviously, he struggled, to start his career, but maybe he's starting to finally find something. They and the Jets have beat some solid teams this year. I mean, they beat the Buffalo Bills at home, and then they beat the Philadelphia Eagles too. So I mean, those are two top dogs of this league. I know the Bills are kind of struggling right now, but the Bills are still a pretty solid team, and it's a division rival too. And the Eagles are probably the best team in football right now, and the Jets beat them. And the Giants are getting some big names back. They get Andrew Thomas back and also John Michael Schmidt. So both of those guys are practicing now. That's huge for the New York Giants because we know this offensive line has not been good at all. And now to get those two guys back in the lineup is a huge it's a positive sign for this offensive line because this offensive line play hasn't been pretty. And, they did allow a few sacks to the Commanders, and at least it wasn't a bloodbath like it was, in Miami or, against Dallas. I think the offensive line is starting to play a little bit better. And, we know Daniel Jones is probably not going to start this game. They're trying to be patient with Daniel. They don't want to rush, Daniel, because if they rush him, then he gets even more hurt. Then he could be, out for maybe the season. But they're taking it very slow with Daniel Jones. He's not cleared for contact yet, but he has thrown the football around a bit. And, we may see Tyrod Taylor for a third week, and I'm not mad about that. If we see Tyrod play against the New York Jets, I'm confident in that because Tyrod has played well. And, I've said it before that he's outperformed Daniel Jones this year in just 2 games. And, why not throw Tyrod in there for a third week? I mean, this is a good Jets defense, but, Tyrod, I think, could play a pretty decent game against the Jets. And I don't particularly think this game is going to be very high scoring. Just because I feel like, both teams have pretty good defenses, and the QB situation is always questionable. I mean, Zach Wilson is finally starting to play good, and Tyrod Taylor all of a sudden is getting starts because Daniel Jones has a neck injury and honestly hasn't played that well anyways this season. But we got the limited injury report today. Daniel Jones, Saquon, Andrew Thomas, Darren Waller, Adoree Jackson, Neil Schmitz, Thibodeau, and Graham Gano were all limited today. Leonard Williams did not practice today. He was he didn't practice due to rest, no injury related. And Gary Brightwell did not practice. He's got a hamstring injury. So, a bunch of limited players, but, I fully expect those guys I named to play. And it'd be huge. I mean, Darren Waller, we all know his hamstring, stuff, but he's fought through it and played through those injuries. And Saquon, I mean, we all know his injury history has not been well, and I still think he's going to play. Just because they're limited doesn't mean they're just not going to play. And I think the biggest thing for this Giants team is to score a lot of points. I mean, the way they've been scoring, if they do that against the New York Jets, they're not going to win this game. They're going to have to put up at least 20, and if they don't, then the Giants are probably not going to win. And honestly, when we scored 14 against the Commanders, I was worried because 14 points in this league you shouldn't be able to win the game with just 14 points on the board, in my opinion. But the defense played well, and they've played well these last 2 weeks. And another thing is for the Giants is to take some shots. Take some shots downfield. This is a good defense. I don't know if Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed are playing, but I will definitely update you guys on that. Probably before game day, either it's on YouTube Short or our Instagram. So definitely follow our Instagram. It's Inside the Boot Podcast. We're going to start putting some content up there on the Instagram. But this whole secondary for the Jets is a lot better too. And this is a Jets team that, should definitely be taken seriously because this is New York Jets. They were honestly, a lot of, people say they were QB away from being, a top dog in the AFC. And they got Aaron Rodgers. He gets injured. Now, this is a big spot for Zach Wilson. Because, I think Zach Wilson, this is his time now to really show the NFL what he's about. Nobody's going to replace him. If he has a bad game, he's still starting the next game. It's really his year now since Aaron Rodgers is injured, and we don't know when Aaron Rodgers is coming back. But yeah, the Giants have to score. I don't see this game being, particularly, a big shootout game. And this defense has played really well, and I expect them to play really well against the New York Jets. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, a bunch of dogs in that game against the Commanders, and I expect it against the Jets. I don't see any different. The Jets on kind of a similar situation to the Giants, banged up offensive line. But, the Giants are getting some, guys back. And, another thing is I definitely could very well see Deonte Banks lining up against Garrett Wilson. And I think that's going to be a matchup that everyone, is definitely excited to see. Two young studs in this league trying to, really, establish themselves. Of course, it's more for Deonte Banks to establish himself because, we saw what Garrett Wilson did last year. Really solid year out of that guy. And, for the Giants, this is a winnable game. Okay, the Giants, can win this game. And if they, win this game, it's another step in the right direction because they got the Raiders after that. And if you could really start piling up some wins, these are the type of wins that you're going to have to need to, carry into the playoffs if you want to make the playoffs. If you don't win these games, then you're at a long shot to make the playoffs because you still have the Eagles 2 times, you got Washington one more time, you got Dallas one more time, and you haven't had good success against Philly at all, so you could very well see 2 losses there alone. And, this is a big game if the Giants even want to make the playoffs. And, right now it's tough spot to predict. If this team all of a sudden just starts picking up the offense and plays well, who knows? Football is interesting. We've seen crazy things, right? Also, another thing is that Kayvon, Thibbs he's on pace for 14.5 sacks. And obviously I don't think he's going to get to that high, but he's played really well this year, and he's already broke his sack total last year. And he's getting to the quarterback a lot more this year. Last year it looked like he really, struggled to get to the offensive line, but, now he's really getting to the offensive line and putting on a lot of pressure on that QB, and he's missed a few sacks, but you never know. You look down the road, those missed sacks. Eventually, he might start really getting to the QB and adding up even more sacks than he already has. And keys to win. We kind of broke this down already, but don't let the Jets defense get hot. If you let this Jets defense really get hot, and they start sending pressure after pressure, and they really start getting to the QB, it could really get ugly for this Giants team quick. And I think the last thing the Giants need is to get killed by the New York Jets. I mean, this is kind of like the MetLife Super Bowl, as they call it. Who is going to win, MetLife this year? Is it going to be the Jets or is it going to be the Giants? Another thing is for Tyrod to get the ball out quickly. I mean, he's done that, very well. It's really, no issue there. And, don't turn the ball over, for the Giants. If you keep turning the ball over to this Jets squad, it could get ugly, which I said. But now let's get into the New York Rangers win over the Calgary Flames. It was a late one. Of course, we all saw 32 teams of the NHL played yesterday. There was the Frozen Frenzy. I thought that was pretty cool, actually, to the NHL to do that. And, this first period for the Rangers was rough. They scored really early. I think, maybe not even 2 minutes into the hockey game, but a really bad turnover. It all started with a bad saucer pass by Filip Chytil. And then, the Flames go into their zone, and then Blake Coleman is left wide open in the slot. He beats Igor Shesterkin. We flip over to the second period, and this Rangers team woke up. I think the last 7 or so minutes of that first, they really started to get something going, but that second period, they scored 3 goals in that period, and they were huge ones. I mean, Chris Kreider on the power play. When are people going to learn to guard that man? They know how good of a deflector he is. This guy is on, the goal line, essentially, outside of the left post. He puts it right over Markstrom, and Markstrom's no small goalie. Markstrom's a very tall goalie, and he gets it right over his shoulder. I mean, Chris Kreider, Mr. Power Play goal, as they call him. You really can't leave that guy open, and he's been left open a few times now, and all you got to do is put it on his stick, and he's probably going to deflect it in. Another thing for this New York Rangers team is the kids are on. Lafreniere scored the first goal to tie up the game. Really nice deflection on the power play from a Gustafsson shot, and that's huge. I mean, I think the biggest questions of this Rangers team is, what is Kaapo Kakko and Alexis Lafreniere going to bring? Because if they, weren't going to play well and they were going to stink, probably would be really one of the main 2 pieces to move at the trade deadline. But right now they are probably locked in for, at least for the rest of this season, because they are playing really well right now. It's only a few games, but if this is the type of hockey we're going to get out of these two kids, we are in for a very nice season, in my opinion. I think, Lafreniere and Kakko look very good. Laf scoring some goals. I think Kakko is, getting better each time. He's really good at protecting the puck. And, even Igor Shesterkin was really good. Outside of letting up that 1 goal, he was locked in. This guy was locked in. And this was a Flames team that, wasn't particularly good. But the Rangers allowed a lot of opportunities for this Flames team to really stay in the game. But Shesterkin, held his ground and only allowed 1 goal. And the Flames had 11 high danger chances, and they scored 1 of them. That was the Blake Coleman goal. But outside of that, Shesterkin made 10 high danger opportunity saves. And even their expected goals was at 4.2. They were expected 4 goals in that game, and they only got 1. So the Rangers, need to clean up defensively against their upcoming teams on this Canada trip, but they still won the game, and I think that's one thing that you have to take away from this game is that they did find a way to win this game, even though they didn't start off well at all. And I think if that's a better team, like a New Jersey team or a Carolina team, even though Carolina is struggling right now. So, I mean, you take in, Toronto or Vegas. So if you play one of those teams and you start off bad those first 10 minutes, you could very well be down 1 to 2 goals. But, the Rangers got lucky that they played a poor Flames team that's not very good, and they give up easily. I talked about Lafreniere. Filipino, 5 assists in the last 2 games. He's been really good. I think the Kraken game, was really the start of, Filipino getting, a ton of assists. I mean, this guy's a playmaker. He is really good. Drives hard to the net. He did a lot well for this team, and the Rangers look to see what Filipino's got the rest of the year. I mean, if this is what we're getting out of Filipino, this would be huge. I mean, there's been times he started out like this, but went cold. We don't know what we're gonna get, but to wrap this thing up, Shesterkin posted a .958 save percentage against the Flames, and it's his third game with only 1 goal allowed, and he improves to 37-7-5 on the road against the Western Conference in his career. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this podcast. I know you guys sent out some Q&A questions. Let's see. Before we go, I just got them. So, before we go, we talk about the Giants. Sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to do that to you guys. So one of the questions is, I think the only way the Giants win this game is if they get to the quarterback a lot, since they're facing a banged-up Jets offensive line. 100% agree. I think if the Giants get to Zach Wilson consistently, like they did against the Commanders, Giants can definitely win that game. Also, do you believe there's a better chance the Giants win this game with Andrew Thomas possibly coming back? And should the Giants roll with a hot hand and start Tyrod Taylor one more time? I think they're just going to have to start Tyrod. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be ready. And also, it's huge to get Andrew Thomas back. You get a reliable offensive lineman who and you can trust to block very well. Another question we have here is, what are the keys to staying consistent like last week? It's just playing tough. This is for the Giants question, another Giants question. So, staying consistent. It's not easy to play a perfect game like you can never play a perfect game. But the Giants played almost a near perfect game defensively, and if they keep playing like that, they're going to start shutting down teams very, very much so. But that's a quick Q&A. Sorry about almost cutting it short. But anyways, this has been the Inside the Boot Podcast, episode number 52. And this was breaking down the New York Rangers win over the Calgary Flames and the Giants preview against the New York Jets. This is Vin signing off. I'll see you guys in episode 53. Peace.